Well, good evening to everybody who is here. At the end of the year, it always happens to all of us that we set down reflections, sometimes for ourselves, sometimes for the others that we work with. It's my absolute, complete privilege to have this fine confluence of minds from maybe about 30 odd cities, if I include all the attendees and participants who are here. We have from 3 places in the United States, two from around Chicago, one from Princeton, I think in New Jersey. Indrani is from there, from the Columbia University. We have people from Chennai to many other places. Frank is from the West Coast. It must be really very, very early morning for him. Frank, good morning to you. Yeah, good. Frank is also from the GlobalWaterWorks. Okay, Pyle, since you have to leave, I will request you to see if you can share some thoughts with us, some ideas and insights, and then we will continue with the rest of the session. Yes, Pyle?
I'm here for a few minutes, Doctor, but I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's thoughts and views. There's not much I will add. I'm just waiting to hear what's to follow. Thank you.
Great. Well, that's...
But I'm here. I'm going to be here for a while, so I'll just be on mute.
Wonderful. Well, I must say that all of you, the 12 of you that we have invited, barring 2 of them who are going to be prospective speakers into 2022, Indrani and Dr. Raj Rajaram, all of you have spoken. You have shared great concern on what you can do individually, as I said earlier, to battle, and together, of course, to battle a challenge that seems not yet the concern of the world, of regular people that we know. I meet my next door neighbor. I still don't know what I can tell him to see that he does what we all know that he and I should be doing. That is one challenge I don't know how to quite beat. People continue to build buildings with central air conditioning. Success in life is measured by the size of the house you own. Governments continue to launch projects that mine coal over long distances and destroy forests. The first shipment of coal from Queensland left Australia only last week, maybe 3 days ago, and it's on its way on the seas to India from an Indian company with marketing rights and mining rights that they have in that Australian province. No one has a clear answer. Honestly, none of us have a clear answer on how to mitigate climate hazards, but no one understands honestly again as to what we can do to mitigate or get other people to adopt. Adoption of solutions is not on any government's agenda. We saw that in COP26 again, though there is a lot of brave speak from most governments and politicians. What can you and I do is a question I have asked myself several times, and this session is something that I hope will leave with us all some very rich learning. At PJMT alone, over these 3 years, we completed 3 years in November, I think, this month actually, we have brought more than 120 such discussions with over 200 speakers over many, many different thematic series. All of it is available on the website anyway, as I said earlier to some of the speakers here. There are times I wish personally that we had someone like Gandhi perhaps, who related with some universal emotion to the hearts of every home dweller. If we can get somebody who can connect like that with that kind of universality to make people understand the sheer dire need for change, the way we use water or energy or anything else like that, that will make a lot of sense to us, I think. There is some deep chord that doesn't seem to be struck, in anyone's heart in a significant way. I don't know what to do about that. We have heard many youngsters rallying for global action. We saw that in COP26. We have seen that with some of these other youngsters doing it in Europe and in the US and here. We have had many inspiring but isolated examples of wonderful projects that are deep green, net zero, and all that. We have many professionals who have made a business out of sustainability, where efficiency is measured only when you have more as usage. Conservation is not about doing anything. Conservation is about doing nothing. But that is like squaring a circle. So what should we do? Should we continue to champion causes knowing that it is a lost cause? Can we bring big, tangible, measurable change? Can we make people wake up from this, this atrophy or this ignorance, for instance, of various kinds that we all are somehow stuck in? Can we wake people up into, people in the sense of administrators and politicians and have them focus on simple things that are demand side managed and not supply side managed. They all want the brutality of public expenditure. Is that what you and I want to actually pursue or accept? Let's hear from these leaders today. We all know that it's not for want of solutions that things are not happening. It's clearly something that is missing. There is a pathetic want, if I may say so, of the will to act. We can make presentations, more and more such presentations. We can have a few more people come in and see that they share with us, inspiring stories of their own, where they have succeeded in some bit to push those frontiers of both economic possibility and the membrane of ecological possibility. So that is fundamentally what this meeting is about. We want to see if we can listen to all these very distinguished people. We have Dr. Prakash Kulkarni. We have Jyotirmay from Jaipur. Prakash is from Mysore. We have Nandakumar from Chennai. Mary from Wisconsin. We have Ganguly from a place about 3 hours from. It's a small village, 3 hours from Bangalore. Of course, we have Nagesh Hegde from Bangalore, who's been a great champion for a long time. We have Indrani from Indrani Pal from Princeton, but she teaches at the Columbia University. She started earlier at Cambridge, and before that she was in Germany. She's an IIT Delhi alumni, by the way. And we have Sandeep Narayan from Delhi. We have Usha Kini from Bangalore, who has been championing the VOW Action Forum. She was former director of something called the Doordarshan Kendra's Bangalore Center. We have, of course, V. Suresh, the chairperson of the Indian Green Building Council, a wonderful supporter for all that the Prem Jain Memorial Trust has been doing from the beginning. We have Dr. Raj Rajaram from Chicago. I mentioned him earlier. Now he's here. He's joined us. And of course, Vijay from Andhra, from Amravati. Today, I think he is in Vijayawada. Well, if Ashok Lal has not joined in, I was waiting to see if he will come in. Ashok, have you come in? Ashok Lal? No, he's not come in, I think. Well, in which case, who can? There he is. No, he's not here yet. Suresh ji, can I request you to be that first person to possibly share your thoughts on what our results should be individually and collectively in 2022 for the next, say, 2 or 3 minutes, whatever points occur to you. We will make notes of what you say. We will try and see how we can put this together.
Okay. Thank you, Chandra. And such a pleasure to participate in this wonderful program of PJMT on this whole topic of Retrospect 2022, India Green Priorities 20221. And Payal, thank you for calling me to join this program. I'm happy to be here. COP26 is over. December 1st week, November and December 1st, the whole world were there to identify what needs to be done. Is it 2050 or 2060 or 2070, whatever. Each country in their own little wisdom have identified what they can do depending on the socio-economic status of each country and the dependence on the fossil fuel as an important input is a very important aspect. Therefore, we are broadly aware of the commitments from various countries have given over there, developed as well as developing countries and the LDCs. Now, we can't have one particular framework of ideas for covering all of them in one brush. It's not possible because the levels of energy being consumed, level of environmental, the carbon emission coming in each country are all different in a very large way.
Suresh, what would you think you should do or I should be doing in this 1 year? The larger issues remain anyway. There's nothing we can do about them.
Well, all that we need, action, action, and action. Simple as that. If you want to do just this 1 year agenda, I was thinking of having an immediate term 1 to 2025, a medium term to 2030, which is also the Sustainable Development Goal agenda, and a larger one towards 2050 oblique whatever. But if you want something in terms of a straight vanilla reply, what we should do is just 1 calendar year. Well, all we have to get on to net zero energy, net zero water, net zero waste, and net zero carbon in all the new projects that you're working on it in a very large way, either as a professional or as a builder or a developer or as a government agency or a regulator. Try to push through this agenda in a very large way. See all the support mechanisms that needs to be done. Create a lot of awareness a lot of appreciation, a lot of application. Concentrate on these three areas of education, as well as getting into enforcement, and most importantly, trying to get things on the ground there. We have to start walking the talk. 2022 has started. 2030 will come just less than about 8 years from now. We thought 2003 was very far when 2015, 193 countries joined over there. But there are some good levels of renewable energies coming out. 500 gigawatt of energy India can bring in over there. More than 50% of all our energy through fossil energy. It's a great thing to happen over there for 100 gigawatt that we have. So in each of the projects that we have, try to put in 10 to 15% or 20% of all your energy requirement only based on renewable. That has got to be the mandate. And we are doing that in the Ministry of Environment. Forest. Any new projects coming over there, unless you bring in so much amount of renewable energy coming over there than your conventional grid energy, the project will not go through. So, I mean, some amount of compulsion is required and some amount of pressure is required. Some carrot and a stick approach is the best way to do. Some regulatory framework is needed, as well as some incentives are needed to help through all these particular things to go through. And that'll be the short answer to do it from my side. Or just the time for action. Now, if you want a longer reply, I'm sure that's what I'd like to give you in 2025, the immediate framework,
we will look
or a
at
midterm
that.
framework 2030 and 2005. That is a detailed reply. If you want what you want in 2022,
that's right.
Just simple action.
Fair enough. I mean, coming from where you do, presiding over the numbers of things that you do, I'm not surprised that you're taking a, shall we say, a strategic overview on these things. Energy, water, waste, carbon, excellent, as a framework for even individuals to do. I'm head of a family, I could be a business manager in a company, anybody like this.
Yes.
Can I turn to Raj Rajaram, if that is all right with you? Raj is speaking from Chicago, as I said earlier to you all. Good morning to you, Raj, again. And Raj has been a doyen of these things, very soft-spoken, very crystal clear. Last week, he spoke on ethics and engineering. Amazing, a person who, he spoke in about 40 minutes, but he brought such immense clarity to what he was offering. Raj, what are your thoughts, in the next, say, 2-3 minutes that every single individual here can take back home?
Thank you, Dr. Hari, and thank you for the Prem Jain Memorial Trust for organizing this wonderful line of speakers to look ahead at 2022. I have been very fortunate to be able to give back to India for the last 25 years, my time, talent, and treasure, although I left India when I was in my early 20s. And I consider that, God's blessing. And what I have learned in my 25 years in India working on development projects is that it has to be a grassroots evolution, where in a democracy without grassroots involvement, citizen involvement, any top-down solution will fail. Will last for a few years. We have seen in many, many, many government projects, they just pour tons and tons of money. And after a year or 5 years, they are not working anymore. That is not acceptable anymore. We have learned a lot from our past mistakes. So I would say that groups like World of Water have to be expanded. So Citizen Action Forum has to be expanded to every city in India, every city in the world. And citizens have to understand that there are these natural principles which we cannot violate. Like Mahatma Gandhi ji said, the earth has everything for every man's needs, but not for one man's greed. So we are getting more greedy as the development takes place. We think getting more cars or more bigger houses are going to give us happiness. No, I found out through my many, many years of existence on this earth that only happiness that you can get is through giving to others, giving back to society, giving back to nature. So let us all dedicate ourselves to doing our best to reduce our demand for things, conserve, reuse, recycle. That is the principles that WOW has been pushing for the last year. And I wish this would expand and people would just get it in their own DNA that they have to do this, not imposed by government, not, trying to do it for somebody else's sake, but for their sake and for their community's sake.
Raj, you have yourself spent more than half your years, 45, 50 years, on things that you did in the 80s, in the 90s. You started the India Water Portal in 2004, I think. So much of this work in 1989, you know what you pushed as an initiative in India. Do you feel sometimes disenchanted that all that effort has still not made, massive, substantive impact in terms of what we need to be doing to the world?
I'm an eternal optimist. And whenever I come to India, I make it a point to talk to young people in universities and high schools. And when I see the energy of those young people and their passion to change things, to do things better, I still recall a 16-year-old girl asking me in a high school in Delhi, "Sir, my whole community is being flooded. There's open sewers. And what can we do? What can I do?" I said, there is something called Right to Information Act that you have to make your parents ask for what is being happening in your community with the taxes you pay. Unless you demand it, nothing will happen. So please talk to your parents and insist that they file a right to action forum to get information on how your money is being spent for your benefit and not for your getting sick in your community. So this is the kind of thing I'm so energized when I see young people and like Greta Thunberg. And I saw this young girl from Tamil Nadu coming and talking at the Glasgow Forum. And those are things that inspire me. And so I take every opportunity to tell young people, go for it. Sky is the limit. If you have a passion in your heart, anything is possible. Nothing is impossible. So if that kind of action, that kind of spirit we can develop in every citizen in every community, we will do a lot of progress in 2022. And I wish what more action forums are doing, tech talks are doing, be replicated everywhere in the world. Thank you.
Raj is also a founder of something called the India Development Coalition of America. And so has brought, some effort to have these two countries join hands. Constantly he's working on something. He's relentless. He's like one of those things, those objects that move towards, what do they call it? That irresistible force that is moving towards an immovable object, they say. He's like that, and he never gives up. Nagesh Hegde from 1973 or 74, formidable, 50 years. And you don't give up. Even last year, you have put out 2 books, I think, and you keep teaching students and you teach environment journalism and such. What are your thoughts for the youngsters, those who are listening to this? We have over 50 people here today listening.
Thank you, Dr. Hari. I think I misread the message probably. Yes, I know we have to inspire the different kinds of generations within us. But I thought I'll take one example and show where are the information gaps, how we can inspire through monetization. No amount of inspiration lectures will ever prompt people here, especially in India. You have to monetize it. You have to show that there is profit. So I'll take 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, I promise, Hari, I'll finish off. Can you permit me to use this screen?
Sure, please. If you have to share screen. Okay.
Yes.
Never mind. I know you talk with pictures, so we will make an exception for you.
Yeah. But I have been prohibited from using the.
Okay, it's okay.
You can use now.
Yeah, you can use. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. There we are. Hello.
Your pictures have always spoken. But you could continue. Yeah. Go on, please. No, wow. Lots of pictures there. Lots of files there. All right. Go on.
Now I'll take one example.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, go on.
In this case, I'm against the greens. Okay.
Okay.
Now, it is actually degreening the lakes.
Oh.
The green is, we all love green, but actually green, this is one kind of a green revolution which is really choking us.
Right.
I thought I'll take the example, especially this year because of excessive rain, nearly 70% of all our water bodies are full, and in another 1 month or so, they will turn to green. because of excessive usage of things. Now, what do? We usually, it's such a ridiculous idea that we start using dredgers, we call tenders, etc., especially in the most notorious Belandur Lake. It catches fire also because of excessive weed getting into the bottom silt of the lake, and a lot of methane gets accumulated. What do? Is just they try to use different kinds of dredgers, and dredgers won't work. They tried it, of course, in Dal Lake, they tried it because it's an economic affair there. If they clean the lake, then only they can survive. In most of our lakes are not directly related to the income of the people. So we have to prioritize, but here, yes, Kashmir, in Bangalore, the Green Tribunal was actually ordered for cleaning up of the lake, and this is what we have seen. Too many dredgers, and again, multimillionaires are making huge money, and the lake is as it is. Here is
No. Nagesh, I'll stop you there.
Two more minutes.
No, we can't have 2 more minutes. I'll put it like this to you. We have million stories like this of pathetic, absolutely dismal situations. No point in your showing us the million and the first one.
No, but
if I was one of those guys,
3 minutes, Harry.
No, I guess, sorry. No, instead of showing this, I would like you to tell me.
I'll come to the last slide, okay?
Okay.
I'll come to the last slide. Why don't you involve people?
Right.
Which is, make people take out that thing and then convert it into green biogas, convert it into electricity, and convert it into hydrogen. This involves a long chain of people, chemists, biologists, scientists involving, and those people who pick up the green, they earn money.
Engage people. If I were to say hello to you in June 2022, what would you wrap me for or pull me up for not doing?
Yeah, we got to involve the school children there. Okay, school children and the scientists together, if they come and they know what can be done, and take the action. Direct action is required for them. Lectures won't do.
Direct action.
To the nearest lake. Show them what the body, how it can be converted into.
Suresh said action.
Yeah.
He's right. You're right. Absolutely right. Great. We'll come back to you. There is a set of afterthoughts after everyone has spoken. I thought we'll invite you again. Can I ask Mary to go next? Mary Eggert, can I ask you to,
Yes. Well, and I love what I'm hearing from everyone here because the goal is not to talk about stuff as we've been doing for the last 30 to 50 years and learning the processes, but instead action. And it's a wow experience, Hari, to be around your team because we are seeing the action. And we intersected about 6 months ago, thanks to Dr. Raj, and learned about your movement to, save the Crow leaders in Chennai.
Beyond single organizations, there are, about 40 odd people listening to us.
Yes.
What do you want to leave as something that will, stick in their minds and they will act upon in the coming year?
Yes, that the solutions are already here. And it's about connecting the people, processes, and technology. And you can do that every other week with Dr. Hari's group on tech or on the progress in India, expanding to the cities. And you can also do that in the GlobalWaterWorks platform, where we are mapping out these journeys thanks to the good work of Raj. We have water as a peace solution. Thanks to your work, we have the conservation. So you play your part in the global water crisis, is my comment.
Yeah, there are many people here, students, leaders who are CEOs of companies and such. What are thoughts that you want to sort of leave with them, or what would you want to do to appeal to them?
Yes, well, I just had a conversation yesterday with a group that's transforming water. I put them in touch with Dr. Raj, a group from the UN that created a mandate to address the WASH and prevention of a pandemic. And he was quite surprised at the fact that all of you have been innovating. And I'm thinking Dr. Nandakumar has solutions. We have atmospheric water. We have artificial intelligence. There's a role everyone can play. And it's up to you to figure out whether you're in science or in math or, what type of contribution you have. But together, and I think this is really important, Dr. Hari, you have this ability to be articulate and to cast a vision. And then Usha has the ability to create administrative process.
Yeah, these are individuals. I'm saying at the overview, because there are people here from 30 to 30 cities at least. So I'm saying at the larger level. I think you made your point. I'll move from here. Maybe you want to speak again on if you want to say something later on. I
Just
will
one
ask.
final thought. It's about solving the global water crisis in this generation. That's what I'd like everyone to think about. We have the solutions, and it's about our coming together and multiplying, training trainers based on what we see happening.
Training. Yeah. In fact, look at how precisely Suresh captured it in the beginning. He talked about, awareness, appreciation, application, education. And he said enforcement. Look at the 5 A's. I mean, he said it like that, 3 A's. And, now I'll move. Thanks, Mary. And I'll come back to you again.
Thank you.
Dr. Jyotirmay from Jaipur.
So, thanks, Riji. So, I'll come straight to the actionable points, and I'll start with what you and me can do.
Right.
My suggestion, I would say, as a New Year pledge would be, first of all, today, as we close this session, the moment we do it, we should do carbon footprinting of ourselves. So each one of us who call ourselves green crusader or green leader or green tank, whatever, what I learned from Dr. Jain is walk the talk. So we do carbon footprinting for ourselves first. And then next year, after completing 1 year when we meet, our target should be to reduce the carbon footprint of ourselves by 20%. And same way we do water footprinting of ourselves, and our own target, individual target should be to reduce the water footprint for ourselves by 10% or 20%, or maybe it may be a self-declared target that I will reduce my.
Knowing that at the average, this lifestyle Indian, I won't say lifestyle American because that's much more the footprint is, we are at about 700 to 750 kilos as carbon kgs go. If you say 20%, we are talking about 150 kgs. How do you think I can reduce it? If I want to learn and obey what you are seeking, what do you think I should be doing?
So there are several ways. First of all, we still are pushing energy efficiency in our lifestyle, in our homes, in our appliances, and all spaces of life. So first of all, adapt green equipment. In addition to green building, green equipment, learn how to use them in a green way. You might have bought a very efficient air conditioner, but you must be using it in a worse manner. That is possible. So learn how to operate it in a green manner. Change your lifestyle as much as possible. Avoid energy consumption. For example, refrigerated food and all that. If you can avoid, all that will have an impact on your green footprint. Reduce or minimize your movement. In fact, I would say adapt minimalization in your life, that I will minimize the travel, I will minimize wastage of food or what all is possible. So use that approach. And I think lifestyle related changes themselves can bring about 5 to 10% of footprint reduction in water footprint. We all
use solar energy.
All things that whichever way. And a larger thing like IGBC and similar other forums to take is, and I've been discussing with Dr. Jain for a long time, is can we have a ration on water as well as energy supplied to cities? That a city having this much of area will be given this much of power only, whatever you do. You control the development, you produce renewable energy, whatever you do, from fossil fuel based energy, not more than this much of power will be supplied. If we can just ration the policy, I think that will make an impact.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jyotirmay. I'll now move to Dr. Prakash Kulkarni from Mysore, after which I'll request Mr. Nandakumar from Chennai's ICCW to speak. So to you now, Dr. Kulkarni. You spoke extremely well about the inspiring work you're doing on lakes in Mysore. Fantastic session that was. You heard just now, Mr. Nagesh Hegde is a doyen, truly a doyen, having spanned 50 years of such work. Amazing work he's done. What would your take be on what you and I should individually do and what you believe others should be doing, to change things?
Thank you, Dr. Hariharan. It's nice to be back. India being home to 18% of the global population ranks 120 on the water quality index. So I would focus on the water quality, which is essentially the summary of what Sri Nagesh was showing us. Now, what we need to really do is to look at the water institutions and their ability to deliver services. Now, this being a state subject, we need to understand the way the public money is spent for a variety of reasons, whether scientific, unscientific, whether there is inherent capability within the institutions to deliver this kind of services in a crisis. Now, we're talking of a crisis situation where I hold water to be more serious than energy, because that was a question which was also posed. So I feel if we're able to take a deep look into the institutions, could be the parachute agency called the water boards and how do we really make available water which is safe and equitable. Now, if there is equity, if you're talking of equity,
no, those are still very broad, Prakash. My question to you is very specific. In the next 6 months, if you were to call me, what would you ask me on what you have asked me to do and I have not done? If I was one of the participants here, so there is something let's say you have left a thought with us. 6 months from now, down the road, you must be able to say, hey, what have you done about it? It's like, you heard Jyotirmay just now, and he said, we must do one sanity check on our carbon footprint at the end of the year. Something like that, anything that you can think of.
The biggest challenge we as service providers face is the stringent norms of the pollution to good itself, which is all from the West. What is good for India? To what extent can we really treat and at what cost? At what cost? If at all we still suffer the water pollution, is also on account of the technologies, the limitations they say. So what I would do is call for an awareness program among the government agency itself and call the private sector also, and the pollution who is supposed to enforce these legislations. So a meeting of all these minds at the state level, try to figure out if we have a limitation of the budget, if we have a limitation of the choice of technology, what can we possibly do? Should be our first priority.
Sure. Great.
And academicians have not to do actually, academicians.
Right. Fair enough. I will set that for now. Can I ask Mr. Nandakumar to share his thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hari. I had planned many things to say, but having listened to the conversation so far, now I'm now thinking on my feet and make it more relevant to what I can see what you're driving at. You want here and now 6 months focus, not some generic kind of thing. Where I'm coming from is, okay, on behalf of ICCW is what I'm saying, whatever I'm going to say, is if we can change the picture, then we can change the performance. I think it was Zig Ziglar probably who said it. So I'm saying, how do we create paradigm shifts in people's minds? If we can do that, we would be able to make significant difference in other people's, because we want contributions and we need a lot of things to get done quickly. So it would be difficult if we are doing it only ourselves. We need more and more people to participate. So one way I could think of changing paradigms is today there is a lot of data that is available on water, and ICCW is looking at putting all this together using smartphones and IoT connectivity. Data can bring about awareness and empower the citizens, and they would then start participating. So I think one of the things we should do is how do we empower data, common people with data, and ICCW can certainly help in this. The second area is there are a lot of youngsters, and the problems that are facing water are complex. It is not any single entity, neither the government nor the corporates, nor an NGO or a philanthropist can solve it by himself. And there are different sectors that are getting impacted, whether it's food, agriculture, or construction, or every sector is touched by water. I think almost all the SDG goals, UN SDG goals, other than one, are impacted by water. So we need innovative breakthrough solutions. I don't think status quo can help us very, very much. And I'm already seeing Niti Aayog, Atal Mission, the Jal Jeevan Mission, corporate CSRs are all encouraging grand challenges.
At the end of this year, at the end of the coming year, about the same time, if we were speaking to each other, what would be your step back on what you would have achieved by then?
I would have looked at how many young, startup ideas that I have piloted and taken it to a larger scale. because sitting here in ICCW, we are getting a ringside view of all the emerging technologies. And these guys are, I mean, guys or girls, I shouldn't use any gender discrimination here, but they are really, the future of, and I think we should leave it to them, hand over the baton to them and sit back and say, come on, you guys, you got great ideas. And how can we mentor you? How can we arrange financial support to you directly or indirectly and see that you start making a difference? And data will speak. I'm saying I want to connect data with the people who are, and all these startups I can see are looking at circular economy. Wow, also stands for wealth out of waste. And they are doing that. And they are, in fact, I recently was astonished to hear 2 startups talking about a wastewater marketplace. I mean, they're really saying there are companies which are struggling to find water to run their organization. They're forbidden to dig bore wells and they're forced to buy water. They don't know where to buy from. And they are literally looking at how to make these, because today STPs are treating water to dispose. They're not really looking at a customer at the end of the line.
Right.
So when you're treating to dispose, you don't care, but they are really looking at how do I make the water saleable and marketable. And if we can encourage this, then you can have a kind of a Swiggy or a Zomato. You literally say, you want water, here is the buyer. You can create a platform. So I can see these paradigms shifting. I don't know if all of us can brainstorm and look for breakthrough solutions, which actually could break the silos which are operating today. This is broadly what
Good thoughts. Good thoughts. Bablu, Ganguly, can I turn to you, or would you want to take your turn later? I'm comfortable either way.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. There's no. I must say that I'm very pleased to be in this august company, and I see that there are some very, very senior people here, and it's great. But you see, you want me to say about what we need to do. I'm already doing it. And so for me, it's difficult to ask you to do what I am doing. But for me, central to the priority in the green economy concept is the food systems and thereby agriculture, really speaking, According to me, when we are talking about moving towards a green economy, we should also be talking about moving towards social and ecological justice, as all these 3 go hand in hand. So I believe that if we have to move towards a greener economy, there needs to be a radical restructuring of the current systems. We need to be talking about food systems as a whole. When we see agriculture as a food system, we understand that it provides food and services that we do not appreciate enough. It engages the largest population of the world, and of course in India, and in not only food production, but also the production of grass, fiber, timber, a whole spectrum of allied activities, such as production of water, yarn, fabric, dyes, flowers, milk, meat, along with a wide range of handcrafted products. Yeah, it's all agriculture. And food systems also include white, blue, and brown, depending on every agro.
Yes, like they say, soil is the only asset of a nation. The Indus Valley civilization went in 70 years, obliterated, because they didn't respect soils and their trees and their plants and the entire ecosystem.
So when I see it, I see that agriculture as a practice is in various shades of green. By shades of green, I mean diversity in conditions.
I got that. There are lots of perceptive young Indians listening to you about this now. And I'm certain that they're taking away some message from what you're saying. You're right. You're already doing it. I mean, you want, like Gandhiji said, or whoever said that about being the change and being it first. I know you're doing it, but how do we, inspire, catalyze? That's what this is about. And like Mr. Nandakumar said, we need to, while we know that there is a very long term that we need to address, as our Sureshji said, 2050, 2060, net zero, India, all that is too complicated for me. I don't understand it. If I'm a 23-year-old, I want to know, hey, in the next 5 years, who is good? Like Greta said, who is going to make my life a little more sufferable? I know it's not going to become completely hunky-dory. That, I think, is what we must, I'm at least seeking to see if we can learn from you all. Usha Kini, can I request you to speak? I know you to be a very straight, no-nonsense kind of person. What would you want to say, Usha?
Thank you, Dr. Hari. I have just put down one point each under education, awareness, and implementation. So under education, I would say that since sustainability has become imperative to survival, introducing subjects such as conservation, biodiversity, air pollution, water and energy management, climate change, etc., also become into the curriculum of school students. This also becomes imperative. I know that the many schools are taking up these subjects as projects, but bringing it into the curriculum would mean mainstreaming green priorities into the education system. The manner in which these subjects are taught, that's also important. It should be taught in an interesting manner, encouraging students to think, learn, and apply it in their personal lives. My appeal would go out to edtech firms to take up these subjects on their platform. I'll tell you the reason why, because some of the videos that I have seen, they make the most difficult of subjects so interesting and so enticing that students take to it. So, and there's a boom right now in the edtech, sector. So I would appeal to these firms to, do this little bit for society. When I come to awareness, communication, outreach, I would say subtle communication should be the way forward. Again, I have a reason for saying this. The man on the street or the neighbor, your neighbor, as you put it, gets a little phased when you come up with net zero and carbon emissions, climate change. They think that is for national and international organizations to be doing. What can I do? So talking to them about simple little things without using any of these terminology, simple little things that would benefit them and that it's not going to cost much. So this kind of communication is what I would stress on. Again, interspersing these messages into conversations, talks, articles, radio and TV programs, blogs, SM posts, etc., goes a long way rather than directly saying something. For example, bringing it into the script of a daily serial and getting one of the popular artists to vocalize it, or putting in one question in each of the episodes of a quiz program. It is not so much to quiz the teams, but it gives the opportunity to the quiz master or the quiz mistress to give a little more additional information once the right answer is given. And using these bits as promos, these portions of the programs, if you run it out as promos, then it goes a long way in reaching out. My last point is on implementation. I would say that an easy way, perhaps, is to take a leaf out of the experience and learnings from people and organizations who have succeeded in making the kind of transformation that we are looking at. So when there is a paper presentation by one of these key speakers who talks about their success story, why don't we just add a couple of more speakers who have been inspired by this work and they themselves have taken up something on the same lines. This subtly sends out the message. It motivates people. It inspires confidence that if they can do it, he has done it. From few to many. I think that's the way forward.
Lovely. We'll keep that in mind for various things that everyone is doing, IGBC, IPA, of course, PJMT and others. I'm going to make a departure. There's a wonderful man. He has stood for so many committed values, Niranjan Khatri. Niranjan requested me just now if he could speak. Niranjan, you want to speak now. I know you can be very bulleted in how you say things. Niranjan, are you there?
Yeah. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. You can turn on your
very small
so
input.
we can see your face too. Done on your, yeah.
Tomorrow, hopefully, I'm in one of the committees of an organization where a decision will be taken for zero discharge and the funding will be given. That's a micro level information.
Congratulations. Lovely.
And what I like about the SEBI notification, Stock Exchange Bureau of whatever it is, with effect from financial year 22-23, filing of business report, sustainability report shall be mandatory for the top 1,000 listed companies. I think this is going to be changing the ecosystem.
We lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. Yes, go on.
Okay. The second one is that the country made the 5-point promise in Glasgow, and I'm only going to dwell on one point, that by 2030 we'll have 500 gigawatt of renewable energy. So look at the kind of water savings on account of this, as opposed to using from thermal power plant. Thank you.
Lovely. Absolutely. Crystal, 3 points. I turn to now. I will possibly ask Indrani from Colombia. You've been full of beans the last, say, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And like Mary this morning, her morning at 2:30 a.m., I think, she's responding to a mail of mine. I'm telling myself, how can she be doing this? She's got to have some hours of sleep. And Indrani, you are not any far behind Mary in the kinds of amounts, the tons of energy and enthusiasm you're bringing. What are your thoughts? I know you teach, you're a full professor at the Columbia University. I know you have done some very interesting things the last 14, 15 years in terms of research at the larger levels as a water scientist, worked in Germany and Cambridge, and then now here on the Eastern Seaboard in the US. What do you think you should be doing or your students should be doing in the next 12 months?
Absolutely, absolutely, Hari. It's such a pleasure first to hear all these visionaries and their philosophies. And to sum them all, really, there are enough ability and humanity to solve all these water and climate issues that we are talking about, right? So we are talking about problems and solutions. So really accelerating the deployment of existing solutions, involving the citizens and grassroots, that I would, take on. I think we have not yet leveraged the power that the citizens and grassroots really bring in. So smartening up the citizens, so really picking on, what Ms. Usha just said, being mindful about, what language we use. Historically, we are taught to, use terminologies, using, words and as such that we read in the textbooks. But when we talk about empowering citizens, net zero or sustainability, we have to put them in the context of how they do their water or energy, and really put solutions and the problems that they face into context. So along that line and seeing all this energy that the startups and companies, just think about just 5 to 6 years, all these pitch competitions and all that, they were not existing. So are we really innovating or bringing in innovative ideas to collaborate with them, providing them with the platforms to connect to the citizens?
Lovely, lovely. We'll come back. One more round we'll take, because like someone said just now, when you listen to the others, there is a set of afterthoughts that come to us. So I thought we'll take another round. Vijaya Sai Meka. I know you had another meeting today of Urjavaran, right? And you're still there. Okay. So there must be lots of thoughts that run in your mind. I know you to be a very reflective, thinking person. I mean, by nature, that is. I remember a conversation I had with you in Hyderabad, maybe 6-7 years ago. Remember? We met outside the auditorium and all that. What are your thoughts? What do you think we should be doing, you and I, individually?
See, what we are doing is, we're all doing crisis management and we are not feeling that urgency. So every time we are trying to actually improve the efficiency of air conditioners and all, but instead we have to see that how do we reduce the usage of air conditioners by reducing the temperatures everywhere, pan-India. The success of any movement depends on active participation of the society or leaders from the related field. So this need actually a big sensitizing of the whole society instead of IGBC or ISHRE doing something at the only cities. We have to go to the grassroots level, to the villages and school level. The first thing is like IGBC doing actual opening school chapters. So we have to start a book movement involving the school children across the nation, as Usha rightly said. The syllabus should have the effects of global warming, importance of tree plantation. See, we started doing and saying every time conservation, 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 but how actually it will affect them? So what is the role? We have to actually give them some action plan. The other important thing is greening the villages. You see, we neglected 70% of this out of this movement. So we have to go to this, take actually IGBC Green Village rating and start implementing at least actually.
Got that. Sure.
Places.
Sure. Can I come back for the second round back to Sureshji? You heard all of them. Sureshji, if you're there. After this, can I request Bill Hoffman to speak? I know you've been given the mic. Maybe you will share some things. Yes, Sureshji, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm very much there. It's very nice to, I think maybe a two-pronged strategy, having heard everybody. Some are talking at the higher level, some are at the local level. So I think a series of actions that is required, which is top-down, which will come from the government in terms of policy, regulation, and all that has to come. And also bottom of action at the local level, community level, as well as at the citizens level has got to be simultaneously. They will not meet together. They both at once will meet over. And that's the type of approach that we need to do, be it a builder, be it a community, be it a school children or whatever. I think what are the immediate actions that can come? And I think the best I liked was Jyotirmay Mathur, you reduce your green footprint, each one. But I think you asked a very nice question. What does it mean really, Professor Mathur? How does it mean? How does it act? Does it say that don't travel, use more and more cycling? You know what I'm trying to, energy will come down. Or what are the things required to be done? If I was doing something in 2021, what are the 10, 20 things I should do to reduce that carbon footprint in a large way? It's nice to hear, but in terms of specific action, in terms of saving of water or on waste or on energy, each one of them, if you're able to say what specific action that we can do at the level of community, whatever, that will be a very useful way forward. Then you can measure at the end of December 2022, you can measure what is in January and what is in December 12 months, what we did. I think something of that nature, we need an action at each one of the level, at the higher level, at the middle level, at the bottommost level, as well as the action levels that comes at the, we were able to do something of that nature. Then you can say, this is what you builders have to do for all the plans which are on your table. This is what the plan architects and engineers and professionals have to do. This is what the communities can do.
Sure.
This is what
got that. I think your point is very clear, lucid. 10 things to do in 2022 with specific action.
Yes.
And measure it at the end of the year.
And what gets measured gets managed. And therefore,
absolutely, of course,
should be measurable in terms of action. We can't be talking anyway, blah, 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 as Greta was telling. We got to be specific on it. That's why I use the word action, action, action.
Got that.
We want specific action to it, because that's only 1 year toward 2030. Mind you, it's not too far. Sustainable development goal, we are aware. So identify those particular action areas.
Absolutely.
There's a specific action on that in terms of water, in terms of energy, in terms of waste, in terms of carbon, in terms of your own lifestyle changes.
We'll put that down.
You will have something happening at the end of it. Because that question you're asking everybody, by December, how do you measure? Only measure provided you put that into action.
You're right. Absolutely. Bill Hoffman, your turn to speak now. I know you have things. Mary is saying that, you are a greater energizer than she is. So that must be a fair, good compliment to you. Go on, Bill.
Yeah, and you're in the
we can't hear you. You have to unmute. Yep.
I apologize. Yes. Mary, you do me a lot more than I'm worth here. But just to let you know, I will be soon starting my 56th year of water engineering. Water resource planning and water efficiency are my major areas. One of my first retirements was as assistant director for water resource planning for the Texas Water Development Board. And when I retired on that job, I was replaced by a dear friend of mine, Dr. Hari Krishna, who is from Mumbai. Anyway, we still talk to each other all the time. Anyway, long story, this has been a wonderful experience for me. You are touching every base I could think of that needs to be touched in this area. I think it is so important that that the whole picture be looked at, and I also like the idea that you're gathering the data and information. I am a numbers nerd, and I just appreciate what you guys are doing. I just thank Mary for allowing me to be able to listen in to what you're doing. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Raj, your turn, round two.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of wonderful perspectives. I will 100% back Usha's request for all of us to educate the young people. I've just finished a book with a lot of action points the young people can do in their backyards, in their communities. And I've challenged all these young people in high school to do their part, to think what you're not learning biology, physics, chemistry separately, but all this is part of nature. So that education part, I will do whatever is needed to help Usha. My book will be out soon, and that is something we have to do. And in our own daily lives, if we meet young people, try to inspire them, set an example. Gandhiji said, example is better than a lot of talking. So let's set up examples. And also the entrepreneurs that Nandakumar was talking about, we have to encourage them. We have to find the capital, and we have to line them up with mentors to make sure they're successful in the first 4 to 5 years, so that they are inspired to go bigger and better. And again, at the community level, plant more trees, use more solar power, use kitchen gardens, and don't waste food, and cook for the day so that you don't have to put a lot of things in your fridge. All these small things add up. Every citizen does these kinds of things, and the net cumulative effect is huge. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Sandeep Narang, you heard Raj, you heard Jyotirmay. Everyone is talking of awareness, education. You work with many colleges. Any thoughts from you, Sandeep, to inspire all this who are present here as attendees, and for ourselves too? And then I'll move to Mr. Nagesh Hegde, Professor Nagesh Hegde. Sandeep, you want to speak? Okay. No, he's not there. Nagesh Hegde, your turn. You have to unmute. I'm sure some thoughts have crossed your mind.
Harry, this time I'll be more specific.
Okay.
Okay. I know that there is an acute shortage of living examples of eco-friendly lifestyle. Okay. I want my assistant commissioner in my taluk to show me the example, to have solar, to have water. I want all the district commissioners, development commissioners in Karnataka to have fully eco-friendly buildings, and all the electricity should be cut off to them. External water supply should be cut off to them. Government can do it. And I can take the students there. Here is the example. See, I can take the farmers there. Here is the example I can see. You have any number of lectures, videos, lessons, etc. unless we have a living example. And I want that living example to go to the villages.
Oh, please, those people who are those people. Please, Yatin. Sorry.
Yeah. I want living examples at the grassroots, at the panchayat level, taluk level, district level, then even at the city level, so that people can go and emulate them.
Got that. You're saying, let's get every government administrator to walk the talk on green.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Wonderful. Now it's Mary's turn once again. You've heard the rest. You talked about community, process, technology. Mary?
Yeah, I'd actually like to defer to Frank. We've been brainstorming on these efforts. So thank you, Dr. Hari. Frank.
Thank you. Just one point. One point. I think that we need to take in 2022, take specific action to bring people from outside of the water community into the water community. If each one of us, and Indrani, you touched on this a bit. So if each one of us took the initiative to bring in someone from business, from education, from the community, from government, from home, and expand the base to outside of water professionals, then we would, the momentum would be accelerated. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful session, Dr. Hari.
Fantastic, Frank. Very brilliant idea this is. If each of us found, say, 2 people who are not from the water domain, but will want to be convinced into becoming part of the water community, as you called it. Lovely resolve. Those of you who are listening to this, please see how you can internalize this thought. There is something there. Dr. Jyotirmay.
Thank you for giving me the second chance. And I will take the point which I left earlier, and you asked me some specific points. So while within 5 minutes after we close this call, I will send you 20 tips for reducing the carbon footprint.
Lovely.
Which can be individuals. I'll do that within 5 minutes. Then what I propose is, after each one of us document our own stories, and we bring out that in the form of a coffee. I'm sure if
bring down that your voice is breaking.
Our efforts.
Yeah.
If all of us collate our efforts, I'm sure that all the possibilities that a common man needs to know.
How do we call it? What should we be doing? Each of us as leaders here.
Compiling our own stories. We each one of us document our own stories.
Okay. All right.
And then collate it in the form of a book.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that for what it's worth. Lots of people are listening, more discerning. Yeah. Go on. You wanted to say something? Yeah. Okay. Dr. Kulkarni. Prakash.
Yes, I can hear you. So what I would do is to look at alternative delivery mechanisms and set up a pilot. We'll not look at the existing institutions and their limitations, but rather look at where you can generate a lot of employment. This is one sector which is suffering because of insufficient capacity. So what I would look at is efficiency versus sufficiency. Develop local entrepreneurship, and we'll be more than happy to mentor them also.
Okay, fair enough. Whatever that means, we'll have to think about it. All of you who are listening in, not just the panelists, the attendees, I'd like you to think about it, maybe put in some thoughts on the chat box. If, let's say, Dr. Kulkarni says, hey, get down and see if you can create pilots. What does that mean to you? Wherever you are, doesn't matter where you are. What does that mean to you, and what can you do about it? I'd like you to think about it. We'll put all these things, these recorded versions, on the website, at the archives. So I turn now to Ms. Nandakumar, back again, round 2.
Okay. Can you hear me, Dr. Hari?
Yes.
Okay. So my top of the mind thoughts are, one is in engaging school and college students. They can conduct water audits in their own schools and probably create some competition, some kind of a green building link to school so that they get some credits. It can get into their curriculum. It can get into recognition. So that could be one chain of actions we can kick off straight away. The other thing is, if we could identify villages or towns which we could call as innovation villages or towns, which ICCW is already doing, we would like to engage with them straight away and address their problems. We will try and get corporate CSRs. I know that Tata Trust is doing a lot of work, and there are several other organizations. We can mobilize some funds and make a difference in those villages and piloting those startup early stage technologies. So these are 2 things that I have in mind. One is the school kids and their involvement, and the villages where we could start some grassroots initiatives.
Yeah, since I know Mr. Nandakumar well, this is a gauntlet he's throwing at all of us, including myself. What is he saying? He's saying, if you've got a village, anybody who knows any village in any state of the country, and you have, let us say, say 500 households. I'm just saying 500 in order to see that mental math can be done. 500 households, we want to, let's say, give them safe, clean drinking water with some gravity-based, energy-free filtration system. We don't have power in our villages. We can claim that we have electrification and such. So how can we do something like that? Now, the more complicated one will be like, our Bablu Ganguly did in his time of more than half his life again. You can take a watershed and green it like he did and afforest it. He genuinely did afforestation, not the kind of social forestry that we have in this country. So I get to Bablu Ganguly once again now. Thank you for that, Mr. Nandakumar.
Yeah, well, I'll try to go by the way you've been going here. So there are some thoughts. The first and most important thing that I would like to suggest is that we support agriculture. We support farmers. I mean, smallholder farmers, and we demand for organic. This is extremely important from my point of view.
Right. As buyers, you are saying we must insist and demand for chemical-free vegetables, for instance.
Yes. Or food. We have to conserve and protect our common lands. And this includes water bodies, forests, all common lands, because we have to stop land grabbing and monetization of land, water, and air, which is happening by people taking control of common lands. So to me, that's the second task. The third task is grow as much forest as possible and allow grasslands to grow also. People don't recognize that grasslands are extremely important, not just for the green economy, but also for normal, ordinary people, people who are growing animals.
Sure.
And the last one that I'd like to say is, let us live simply so others can simply live. Yes.
Thank you. That's very nice.
The most important thing that I'd like to
What you said about common lands, all of you who are listening, what can you do if you come from a village? It could be that your grandfather came from that village. Is there something you can trigger, with your education and your training? Can you go and tell your panchayat and try and see what they can do to take up those lands which are not owned by farmers? Typically in any village, you have, say, 700, 800 acres as an average. Yes, Bablu, you wanted to say something.
No, I just wanted to say that we are protecting and conserving 9,000 acres of common lands.
Look at that. You want to join, let us say, Bablu Ganguly's community of people who are doing such work, want to do an internship with them. Go and spend 3 years and just fulfill things. I mean, this chase, if you're a youngster today at 22, 23, don't chase those blessed certificates and some few checks that you will get at the end of a month. Maybe you want to go and spend some time with somebody like Bablu Ganguly and with all the immensely inspiring people that he has with him. Good idea for all of you. Usha Kini, your turn. We are at 6:08. We have another 12, maybe 15 minutes. Yes, please. Usha Kini.
I would just echo what Mr. V. Suresh said. He has just summarized it so beautifully.
Beautifully, I know.
I think I'll just go with what he says.
Lovely.
10 action points at different levels.
Wonderful. Niranjan, once more, one turn. Niranjan, are you there? Yeah, you're there. Congratulations once again for the zero discharge that you have somehow managed to get your community to do.
No, I have no more comments. I think all the good comments have been made by various other speakers. I don't want to be repetitive.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're always very precise. That's what I love about this man. Let me tell you about it. You must indulge me. One day he held a meeting, some 3 years ago, he held a meeting for 3 hours and 30 minutes for one batch of people, 30 people, on whatever he talks about on greening campuses and greening various things in your life. He takes a 15-minute break, has a very quick, insipid cup of tea, comes back there on stage. Again, he's transformed into doing another 3-hour session. And it looks like he's just now, risen and fresh as a daisy. He started this one. That is the kind of energy Niranjan Khatri can bring, Over to you, Indrani. Round two.
Yeah, sure. I would actually go back to my earlier comment and Frank really summarizing what I wanted to make. We should really bring in success stories from other sectors. We are really talking about, water and, solutions that energy folks have, probably have done, like, integration of a decentralization into centralization. So it's really like bringing in a lean startup model. It was very interesting, energizing to also see that, Mr. Nandakumar is already doing it, and we are doing it here too. Really scaling up, that kind of model in India where we can all participate, together. As Mary will be our industrial mentor in the business topic, where I brought in somebody, from industry, a startup. So it's really expanding that idea, which could be educational at every level, having design thinking in place, and really connecting what is really the disconnect in a deployment of solutions that's already existing elsewhere.
Let me tell all of you, Indrani comes from a village in north of Calcutta, from a district where she says that in her own years, when she was 8, 10, 12, can you tell that story, Indrani, instead of my narrating it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I see that Mr. Ganguly is here, and from his last name, and if I'm correct, he's Bengali too.
But he's a bad Bengali because he's become a very Telugu person.
All right. No, I mean, seeing two Bengalis and, among, anyway, so that's, yes, you are right, Hari. A little bit correction. I'm from the southern part, and it's not really Kolkata, it's about 40 miles away, closer
what
to
district
Sundarban.
is this? What Sundarban?
Yes, it's south 24 Parganas. It's called Joynagar, Mojilpur, and it's closer to Sundarban. Actually, I was born, and I actually
Can you tell them about the water and the quality of water you had?
Sure. As a child, I fetched water in a pail, like bucket, and so it was like 300 to 500 feet away from my home, and that was drinking water. And the groundwater well we had in our backyard, that had lots of iron, and it used to smell. So as a child, I thought, it's a norm, and it's everybody does, and it's a drinking water that has to be pure and not any other water. But as I grew up, and so it seemed to be different, right? So, however, at that point, what I found was the priority was not really in water until people really realized how the water that you're using for washing and your face, or rinsing your mouth, that's impacting your public health.
The reason I asked, sorry, Indrani, not to cut the trail, but
please,
to tell the others who are here that you can come from an extremely, I will say, underprivileged family. Water that can be reddish in color if it is iron, very high in iron, and it can smell. I don't know if any of you have had the experience of having to look at water of this kind with high iron content over 3 mg. It can be, the smell itself is like, chlorine has a certain pungent smell. Iron has got a slightly different smell. Now, we don't even know sometimes how painful this can be for people. And like she said, as a child, look at her innocence. Yes, Vijay, I'm coming to you. Look at her innocence. She thought that water anyway smells like this. And she's come a long distance from then. She's now in her mid-40s. Sorry, Indrani, I'm telling them of your age. And she is now looking at what she can do at a global level of impact and yet make it as local as possible.
Absolutely, Hari. And I started with my children. I shared with you the movie, right? Where I just asked the simple question, what is water? Even my 3-year-old spoke. And look at the strongest message that this 3-year-old really brings in, don't throw trash in the water. How powerful that could be. Really coming back to Usha, creating those kinds of 2 minutes videos, I involved a filmmaker, okay? And a very little funding in terms of just $500 here. It was nothing to that filmmaker.
Sorry, it's 6:14, so I'm...
Absolutely.
Vijaya Sai Meka, you wanted to speak. Yeah, your turn.
Yeah, what actually we have to do is actually every time we feel if we make some things mandatory, it will work and yield results. But I think what we have to sensitize the society and make that they should work voluntarily, then only we will get results.
I know, but what happens is that becomes a lecture. I mean, how do you translate that into something very specific, Vijay? That
yes,
you and I can do.
Some action items we have to go to them, actually go to the villages actually and teach them actually really what they can practice instead of actually we give them lectures at this level, because these messages definitely will not teach them. We have to go there actually and spread the message among school children, give them the responsibility of spreading this message in that village.
Right.
We cannot go there everywhere. So even in IGBC, we were able to reach only to 4 to 5% of the people. Whatever we are doing, IGBC, it is only for a small section of the people. So there is so much other activities that are actually happening pan India. So we have to involve the whole society into this so that we can achieve our objectives.
I got that. Just now there is another person, true champion on water. His name is Chandrasekhar. He's from Chennai, and he is writing that his resolve and his company's resolve is a very small social enterprise. He says, we want to teach at least 1,000 women water warriors to test water